Hey there. Did you know that if the US government were a person, it would owe more money than everyone in the entire country combined? No, seriously, that one person, let's call them Uncle Sam for now, would be sitting on over $34 trillion in debt. That's not just broke college student after spring break. That's owes every bank, every neighbor, and probably your grandma. Levels. So how did this happen? How does a government whose whole job is to run a country end up owing more cash than exists in most people's dreams? Let's start with a little character we'll call Bob the Builder Nation. Imagine Bob isn't a guy in an orange vest. He's a tiny island nation shaped like a bagel. Bear with me. Bob has 10 citizens, a fishing boat made out of old skateboards, and a dream to become the most awesome island nation in the world. To make that dream come true, Bob starts building stuff, roads made of coconut shells, solar-powered huts, a pineapple-powered generator, and even a national park where seagulls wear sunglasses. All this building costs money, but Bob doesn't have enough cash lying around. So what does he do? He borrows it. From who? From his citizens, from nearby islands, sometimes even from future versions of himself. Yes, borrowing from the future is a thing in economics. It's called debt, and it comes with interest. Now, Bob the Builder Nation isn't alone. Governments everywhere borrow money all the time, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Think of it like taking out a mortgage to buy a house. You don't have $300,000 lying around, so you borrow it, pay it back over time, and in exchange, you get something valuable right away, a place to live. Same idea. Except instead of buying a house, governments are buying bridges, schools, fighter jets, NASA programs, and sometimes questionable ice cream flavors for the military cafeteria. But here's the twist. When Bob takes out a mortgage, he knows exactly how much he owes, and when it needs to be paid back. Governments? Not so much, because they keep borrowing, and then borrowing some more, like ordering pizza at midnight because you're hungry and sad and watching cat videos. Let's say Bob builds a super cool treehouse school. It's amazing. Kids love it. The birds sing educational songs, but it costs a ton. So Bob borrows money to build it, then a hurricane hits. Bob needs to rebuild everything. More borrowing. Then the skateboard boat breaks down. Bob wants a new ferry. Borrow again. And before you know it, Bob's debt pile is taller than the palm trees on his island. Now, real-world governments face similar pressures, but on a way bigger scale. They're not just dealing with hurricanes and broken boats. They're dealing with wars, recessions, pandemics, inflation, and occasionally very expensive moon missions. Each time something big happens, the government steps in, and usually that help comes with a price tag. And since taxes aren't always enough to cover these sudden expenses, they borrow more money. But wait, if the government keeps borrowing, who do they borrow from? Great question. Let's imagine Bob writes IOUs to his neighbors and promises to pay them back later with interest. Those IOUs are basically government bonds. In the real world, those IOUs, called treasury bonds, are bought by American citizens through pensions, savings bonds, or investment funds. Foreign governments like China or Japan, banks, and hedge funds. Even the Federal Reserve, which gets its own special kind of weird. These buyers are essentially saying, "We trust you, Uncle Sam, to eventually pay us back, with a little extra." And for the most part, the US government has paid back its debts. That's why people still lend it money. It's like the financial version of having a really good credit score. But here's the catch. Paying back all that debt takes time. And while the government is slowly chipping away at it, it also keeps adding more debt on top. It's like trying to empty a bathtub with the faucet still running. Now here's where things get tricky. Borrowing money isn't free. There's something called interest. Just like with a credit card, the more you borrow, the more you end up paying in interest over time. Right now, the US government spends hundreds of billions each year just paying interest on its debt. That's money that could otherwise go toward education, healthcare, infrastructure, or yes, even better, ice cream for soldiers. But let's pause here for a second. Does all this debt mean the US is doomed? Are we all going to end up living in cardboard boxes eating expired ramen noodles? Not necessarily. Because unlike Bob the Builder Nation, the US economy is massive. It's like the Hulk of economies, strong, resilient, and occasionally green with rage during tax season. As long as the economy grows, the government can usually manage its debt. Think of it like getting a raise. If you earn more money, suddenly that $500 a month car payment feels less scary. The problem comes when debt grows faster than the economy. That's when things start to get dicey. And that brings us to the next big question. Why does the government keep borrowing more than it earns? Is it because politicians are bad at math? Or maybe they just like drama? Well, maybe a little of both. But mostly it's because of something called budget deficits. A budget deficit is what happens when the government spends more money than it collects in taxes in a given year. Imagine you run a lemonade stand. You bring in $100 from selling cups of sweet, refreshing lemonade, but then you spend $120 on fancy umbrellas, neon signs, and a goat named Kevin to attract customers. You've got a $20 deficit. Do this every year, and pretty soon, Kevin the goat will be asking you for a loan. Budget deficits add up over time, and that's how national debt grows. So now we've got three main ingredients in this government debt smoothie: spending. We want our government to do a lot of things: build highways, fund research, protect borders, fight wildfires, and yes, occasionally send rovers to Mars. Tax revenue. This is the money the government actually brings in, but taxes aren't always enough to cover everything we want done. Borrowing. When spending greater than taxes, borrowing fills the gap, and that adds to the national debt. Put it all together and you've got a recipe for a growing pile of IOUs. But here's the thing, none of this is inherently evil. In fact, borrowing money can be a smart move, especially during tough times. When the economy crashes or a pandemic shuts everything down, government spending can help keep people afloat. Unemployment checks, small business loans, stimulus checks, they all come from somewhere, and often that somewhere is borrowed money. So in a way, debt can be like a life raft. It helps you survive until the storm passes. But here's the danger: if you rely on that life raft too much, you might forget how to swim. And that brings us back to the original question: why does the government owe so much money? Because it's been borrowing a lot, for a long time, to do a lot of different things. Some of it was necessary, some of it was optional, a little of it was questionable, but the story doesn't end here. Because now we need to ask, what does all this debt actually mean for you? Like, should you care? Is it going to affect your summer job flipping burgers or your chances of getting that sweet, sweet TikTok fame? And more importantly, is there a way out? Can a country ever really pay off its debt? Or are we all just Bob the Builder Nation, building something great while slowly drowning in IOUs?